Guys, my name is Cynthia Igbe, and in today's tutorial we are going to be learning how to cut a knicker. The tools that will be required for these tutorials are going to be the scissors, the French curve, your ruler, your hip curve, your ruler, your marker, your fabric, your chalk, and the pepper scissors I'm going to use. Measurements required: waist circumference measurement, hip circumference measurement, hip length, crotch length, the length of the short, the knee circumference measurement. Okay, this knicker we're about to draft on this pattern can also be drafted or done directly on your fabric. I'm doing it here so as you can see, so that you can see properly. But for the back, I'll just do it on my fabric. Okay, now at the top of my pattern paper, I'll come down by 1.5 inches, make some few points, and I'm going to join the points together to make a straight line, as many points as I can, so that I can get a straight line. And then afterwards, I would also do same at the side of the pattern, and there I will mark out 2.5 inches at the side of my pattern paper. These lines will help me mark out my measurements. From the top, that's where we'll mark out our vertical measurement, and from the side we'll take our horizontal measurement. That would serve as our side, the side front of our knicker. From our measurement, the length of our knicker is 22 inches, and so I'll mark out 22 inches. My body rise or hip length is 8.5. I'll mark that out now, and then I will come down by 2.5 to mark out my crotch length as well. My body rise or hip length is 8.5. I'll mark out some points, and use a ruler to make a straight rule to join each point together. At this point, I'm marking out the 2.5 inches, which is my crotch length, and I'm using a rule to join the points together. You can also get your crotch length by dividing your hip circumference by 4. The next we'll be doing is marking out our hip circumference measurement, which is 47 divided by 4. 11, which will give us 11.7. We'll mark it out from the waistline to our hip length, and then our crotch length. After marking out the point, we'll use our ruler and mark and make a straight line down to the crotch. At this point, you have to pay close attention. For our crotch extension at the front, we'll divide our hip circumference by 20 at the front, and we'll get 2.3. You place your tape at that point where you marked out your hip circumference. You mark out 2.3 inches. Afterwards, you come up at the point where you have your hip length and mark out 0.2 inches. away from your hip circumference line you got. Mark it out to enable you get your crotch curve. Place your French curve at the 0.2 point and the 2.3 points you marked out for the extension. Make sure they are touching your curve and you draw the curve, blending it with your hip circumference line. Next, we'll be marking out our crease line. This line is the line at the middle of the trouser where you have them ironing the trouser at the middle. You would lay your tape from the side front to where you have the crotch extension. Divide whatever you have by 2 and then you get a midpoint. Mark out the midpoint at that crotch point and take the measurement and mark it out at the knee point and at the hem of the trouser. Here I'm trying to mark out the points so you can see, like the length of the short, the knee length, where I have the knee and the allowance I kept, to mark it out properly so that you can see, so as we can take our knee measurements. Now we are to get our knee measurements, and to get that we'll divide our knee circumference, which is 19, by 2. That will give us like 9.5. You can use your tape, bend it, and you get 9.5. You would, after getting that 9.5, you will bend the tape again from the edge to 9.5 and you get 4.7. At that point at which you have 4.7, place that 4.7 at the crease line and mark out 9.5 or at the other hand, at the side front where the 9.5 is, and at the beginning of the tape you mark it out. That will be your knee measurement. After marking up the point, use your hip curve and join the points from your crotch, where you have your crotch extension, to where you have the points you made. Now we'll place our ruler where we have our crotch length and connect that point we made on our knee length to the crotch length down to the hem of the trouser. Sorry, the hem of the knicker, what am I saying? For the upper part of the trouser, our waist circumference is 9.3 after dividing by 4, and then we will add 10, we'll add 1 inch for that. That will give us 10.3. We'll mark it out. We'll mark out 4 inches from our center front, which will be used for our dart, and the length of it will be 4.5. That's what I'll take, 4.5, and then we'll use a ruler and mark out a straight line from. Now that is 1 inch. We'll place our tape and then take in 0.5 on each leg of the dart and join the points to where we have our 4.5. Now, what we'll be doing is to use our ruler and join the point where we marked out our waist circumference to where we have our hip length, but you won't get down to the hip length. You stop like 1 inch before the hip length or 0.7 inch before the hip length. At the center front, we'll come down by 0.5. So then we'll blend that point with the leg of the dart close to it, so as to have a very neat and perfect waistline. Afterwards, at the side front, we'll come up by 0.5 and blend to the leg of that is close to it. Our front pattern is ready. What is left is to keep our allowance. At the center front, we are going to keep 0.5, and at the side front, we are going to keep 1 inch, and at the waistline, 0.5 inch for your band or your facing. We'll use that front pattern to cut the back of our knicker, and we'll alter some of the things. You'll see what I'm going to do right now, because definitely the back of the trouser is different from the front. Here I'm keeping my allowance 0.5 at the C, F. Pay attention on how the allowance is kept on the crotch extension, because it's very necessary you keep the allowance the way I am keeping it. Please, I would like you to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and share if you can. You can also click on the notification bell so that you can be notified each time I upload a new video. Okay, now I'm done keeping my allowance. What I'll do now is to cut it out. Okay, I'm done cutting my front pattern. I would carry my fabric, place on fold, cut the front, and then cut the back. But before I cut the back, I'll have to alter the measurement. I placed my pattern on my fabric, pinned it up after keeping it on fold, and now I'm to cut my front pattern. Now I'm done cutting my front. I'm transferring the dart to the fabric. Now I've placed my fabric, my pattern on my fabric to cut the back of my knicker. I made sure that the pattern is not so high on the fabric. I left a lot of space at the upper part of the pattern because we're going to extend the CB. The CB is usually higher than the CF, and would first of would mark from where we had our hip circumference. We'll move in by 1 inch at that point before we extend all our measurement. Like we'll extend our hip length, we'll extend our crotch length, both sides at the CF and the C, at the SF and the CF. We'll extend all our lines because we are going to add up measurements on them since our back is bigger than the front because of the butt. We'll also extend the, the hip length, the hip circumference line. That's a straight line close to the crotch because we'll move up by 2 inches and we'll move in by 2 inches as well because we want to make CB CB to be higher than the CF. And this depends on the client you're working with. If it's somebody that really has hip, that has maybe the person's butt it's so big, like from hip 40, hip 40, 45, and so on, you come up by 2 inches. But if you have like 36 and thereabouts, you would just move up by 1.5. It will be okay for you, and move in too by 1.5. Right now, the point I made, the 1 inch I went in, I'll put a pin there because I'm going to connect that point with the 2 inches I went in by. I'll connect it. It will not be a straight line. It's going to be like a slanted line. So I'll join those 2 points together. From that point, that's where I'll get my crotch curve after extending my hip length and my crotch length. I'll just do it the way I did the front curve. It's just that the back one will extend by 4 points. Will extend from that 1 inch we came in by 4 points, 4.3. Sorry, 4.7. I'm still trying to extend all my lines. Even at the hem, we'll be adding 0.5 to both sides. Okay, now remember our crotch extension, how to get the crotch extension at the back. We are going to divide our hip circumference by 10. We'll have 4.7. Now, you would place your tape from that point where you had 1, where you went in by 1, and extend it to where your tape row has 4.7, and you mark. Now I'm still extending my lines, but I'm going to do so. I'm telling you because the chalk is not really showing so much. Here I'm coming out by 0.2 inches, just as I did at the front. Then I'll mark out my 4.7. before using my French curve to join those points. I'll make sure those 2 points are touching the curved ruler. I'll make sure they are touching the curved ruler. You can see me struggling to place it, making sure that they both touch the curved ruler. So take your time and try to make it meet. And then afterwards, you blend it to your hip circumference line, the long, that straight or that slanted line we made at the back. You can see me turning the curve to make sure that I have, because this is it. Every trouser, what you're looking at is the crotch. Once you get the crotch, you're good. Now the waist measurement for the back. At that point where we came in by two inches, we would measure 10.3 just as we did at the front, towards where we have our our SF, and blend it to that point. Remember, we had already come up by our 0.5 for our band or facing. So now we would come up back. We'll come up by 2.5. We'll make it 2.5 plus. That's plus our allowance for the waist band or facing, so that we'll just blend it with the waistline at the front there. At the SF, that's the side front, the
Okay, now
waistline
I
is
kept my
equal. It's
fabric
just
on
the
fold,
center back
laid
and
my
center front
pattern,
that
and I'm going to
the
pin down
waistline is
and cut the
different.
front.
That is, the center back is higher than the center front. For the side front is the same. That's why you're seeing me move that way. We'll have like a slanted line at the waistline at the back. It's not like the front that is straight and all. So here I'm trying to blend my lines. Yeah. If you know you haven't subscribed, please, please, please do well to subscribe. It means a lot to me. And please like and share the video. Thank you so much already. Remember, I extended my line. So at that point where I extended it, my hip point, I'm going to add 0.5. My crotch, I'll add 0.5. My knee, I'll add 0.5 as well. And then I'll join the points. At the waist, I would come out after the 10.3 I made. I'll still come out, add 1 inch for allowance, just as we did at the waistline at the front. We added 1 inch at the pattern, you can see it there. So the waistline will have to add 1 inch at the back. Here we are also adding 0.5 at the CB. At the CB, the 0.5 we're adding is because the back is bigger than the front because of the butt. So that's why we're adding 0.5 to our back pattern. And we also added at the crotch 0.5 or the crotch extension. We would use our hip curve. You place it the way I will place mine now, and you join those points. Make sure you place it just the way I'm placing it, and the points will just fall into that curve, and then you just roll your line. Sorry about the faint line, it's not showing so well, but I'm talking all the way so that at least you get what I am saying. I'm joining my points at the sides. The 0.5 inches I came out. That's what I'm joining all the way. The knee, the hip, the crotch length and all. And then I'll come out by 1 inch at the waistline. Don't forget to come out by 1 inch. That's your allowance at the waist. Remember we just came out by 10.3. Now we'll add up the allowance that we are supposed to use to join the waistline. And remember we did 10.3 because we'll take 1 inch as our dart. Our actual waistline is 9.3. 1 inch is for our dart, the other 1 inch is to join our front and our back waistline together. Now I'm trying to take off my pins. After taking off the pins, I'll rule out some lines that are not so visible. Afterwards, I'll keep 0.5 inch at the crotch cuff because that's the only place I've not kept my allowance at the crotch, at the curve, that curve we made. We hadn't kept any allowance there. The next thing to do now is to place my darts. I came in by 4 inches and I'll go down by 5 inches, and I'll do just like I did at the front. One leg of the dart from that point to the other point is 1 inch, so 0.5 on one side and 0.5 on the other side, and join, make a slant to meet the point I made. My back pattern is ready, and what I'll do next is to cut it out. After cutting, sew down your dart, sew your crotch, the two piece at the front, sew the crotch, the two piece at the back before joining the sides. If you love to see or know how the pocket is being fixed and cut, you can say it on the comment section, and maybe I'll do a tutorial on that. I thought to show you this, as in labeled the pattern to show you how to label the pattern so that you can understand properly the waist, the hip length, the crotch, the hip circumference line and all, and the knee as well. I added a brown pepper at the hem, bent it, and used the scissors to cut it, so when I'm bending my hem it will be easy for me. I hope you understand. You can see how the opening is. This allows you to bend easily. If not, if you don't do this, you have a shortage. See you in my next video.